Thank you for being here and welcome to this workshop. And well, maybe we have the time to share our different experiences and approaches, Camila, especially with you. I know Beatriz and I know Clara. I was talking to Clara, and maybe we have the time to share and learn from you all. So I will start by introducing myself a little bit. I am Lores. I am graduated in law, have a master's degree in international studies, and well, professionally speaking, as you said, no, I will introduce myself, Camila. So I worked first as a lawyer, then as legal advisor for the government of Catalonia in a shelter and giving legal services and legal advice to women. And then now I run Donas Mentoras, this tiny project, since the end of 2016. So we have not very long experience so far. So Donas Mentoras, this is a tiny mentoring project with a gender perspective. And my first contact with mentoring was by the hand of Queenfo Mentor Network. And Queenfo is now here represented by Beatriz Fernandez de Fua. And of course, I got in contact with mentoring by the hand of Queenfo, as I said, and because I lived in Denmark for 2.5 years. And I was mentee of Barbara. Barbara mentee, you see this woman? This was, she now is my friend, but she was first my mentor for 1 year. So this is when I met Barbara and I met Beatriz Hernandez de Fur in Queenfo, and I felt really in love with mentoring programs. So now I could say that Donas Mentoras is somehow part of Queenfo Mentor Network experiences too. So so this is as an introduction of myself, what I do. And I think it's a must to start or to do this workshop around two big points. One is, why did I make a break and work with mentoring method so far? And what do we do in Donas Mentoras? So the first part is more or less my diagnosis of the situation and what did I make a break, okay? So I think after several years of professional path, I was a little bit in crisis and I came up with some conclusions. And I believe that mentoring is one of the best tools, if not the best one, that answer to combat gender violences, attending to diversity differences, and running away from stereotypes and stem from gender violence. Okay, so the core of this diagnosis is based on 4 different points. The first one, maybe you heard so far throughout this summit, I don't know, but I have to start with this. I think participation leads transformation. We do have an international legal framework, and you are from Poland, you live in Holland, I think you said. So you might know that we have, of course, in European arena, a legal framework, and of course in Spain and in Catalonia we have too this legal body, and this legal body designs shelters, services, and some limits and paths of our intervention. And my experience after working inside and with the law for more than 15 years is that you validate the norm when you participate within it. So I don't know if you have, whether you have a legal approach or insight, but I think it's important to mention that this equation, which is we behave with some uses becoming customs and then the crystallization of the law. So all those changes in law are really important and necessary, but we have to, as I put you in the slide, we have to act in both ends of this equation if we want to really make social changes and change social minds. Okay, so how do we do that? So we don't do only by giving service, which is vertical, these shelters, these centers, these institutions, but also including women in the processes of other women, which is more horizontal. It's like changing the focus from a passive point of view to active point of view. Okay, and and the second point or the second idea, in my opinion, of course, is that there is no single recipe to get out from gender violence. Okay, and sometimes we leave some women behind because they don't fix the system, because they cannot appeal the court, or they don't want to appeal the court, or maybe they have this special relationship to the shelters and to the services, on-off relationships, maybe due to many different reasons. So my experience and from my point of view, it is important to keep in mind that reparation, real reparation, is not the same with legal reparation. And real reparation can be different from one woman to another. So histories can be alike, as I put you, but the way out can be different. So even though we need this framework, of course, and we need these bodies, this legal body and the protocols and the models, yes, of course, no doubt. We also have to be flexible to understand the needs in a vulnerable situation like this. And we are for women here, so sometimes it's a little bit tiring that when we hear that we are, or this woman under gender violence are vulnerable. They are not vulnerable, they are under a vulnerable situation. So it's not the same, and the language matters, and it's important to us. So to mention that, because I heard throughout the summit, vulnerable people. No, we are not vulnerable. We can be under a vulnerable situation. And this is important to mention, to point out, okay? So again, I think it's important to know how violence impacts in every woman, in every situation throughout the process. And again, as I said at the beginning, legal reparation and real reparation can be different. And we have, sadly, these days examples of that in Catalonia and in Spain. And I don't want to deepen in this point, but we know for sure that sometimes the system re-victimizes the woman. Okay, so this is the second point. The third one is that, in my opinion, again, it is a duty to adjust and to adapt the system to the people. This is we heard that. So it is a must to adapt the system to the woman. And mentoring, again, is a perfect tool to get that, to make services more flexible for women who suffer from gender violence. And you can keep the service as it is. You can keep the shelter as it is. You don't have to change it. You just have to include mentors to flexibilize the response when needed, okay? And the fourth and the last one is that I think we professionals know that we, many times, we know that we lose huge human capital when women end their processes and leave, okay? When they are survivors, they end the processes, they leave. So we discuss in groups, the professionals, how could professionals let this woman live? The knowledge, the power, the experiences, the insight, all these women. Okay, so I think those 4 points explain why did I change and what do we do now. Okay, so the second part of this workshop will be about how do we work in Donas Mentoras. Okay, what do we do, seek and get, roughly speaking. Okay, so what do we do? So we work for institutions, especially for the municipalities and the Generalitat. So we are scaling up a little bit the program so far and addressing ourselves to different associations of women. We work mainly in Catalonia, but well, we have one foot in Basque Country, where I'm from, and in Navarra, in the north of Spain. And we hope, hopefully, we will have another foot in Madrid next year, depending on the pandemic and the situation. But we really hope to start a new tiny project in Madrid next year. And we build nets of women and for the services and for the offices, okay? So depending on every center, every personality, every professional approach, we contact women of this particular service, and we address ourselves to every woman that wants to get involved, okay? So we appeal to every woman that know how a patriarchy affects in our lives and run in our lives. So we see and understand the gender agenda transversally and intersectionally, okay? And we interview all women concerned. We train this woman in mentoring, and then we assign those mentors to the woman in need, okay? So about the time, the moment, the right moment, there is no fixed moment in time. So we are flexible. So we see the whole picture in every woman. So sometimes they need a mentor at the very beginning of their processes to connect with this violence. Sometimes they need a mentor to accompany them throughout the legal process. Sometimes at the very end of the relationship or the process of exit of violence. So when the mentor can provide them a new scenario or social network, and we try to adapt to every circumstance, to every woman need, okay? And what we seek, well, we seek many things, but I have to point out some of my general ideas. We don't have the time. So what with Donas Mentoras, we try to rename victims and we want to highlight the value of the experience in a positive way, okay? So we prefer naming mentors rather than victims or survivors, okay? And we think language matters. So naming mentor instead of survivor, we think it is empowering itself, empowers directly. And this is because I think I raised a question to myself in a moment, and I said, how do I present to others, myself to others? So how do we present not only as woman, as human being? I mean, how do we present to the people, to the world? Do we say we are survivors of anything? So this is a question I raised now. I mean, considering the life not linear, so we can be under a vulnerable circumstance at any time. So do we present ourselves as survivors? So are we maybe contributing by naming survivors to stigmatize women? I don't know. I leave the question on the air. So our aim again is to work with this idea of gender perspective, regardless they are survivors or not. We are all women mentoring. We put our experiences on track, and we mentor with what we have, what we are, okay? So without stigmatizing or labeling women, okay? This is the general idea, what we seek. And what we get, so or they get, there is many things I would say, but well, I have to point out some ideas among others. So after 3 years of experiencing with mentoring, I would say that for survivors, survivors have enormous will to accompany other women. Sometimes survivors, this woman come to us directly. We don't have to address to anyone. They come to us and say, hey, I've been there. I want to do something and mean something for others because I've been there and I know what it is, okay? And their experience is basic to bond and to connect to other women in a similar situations, okay? So, and of course, for the mentees, survivors' speech is valid because it's based on experience, and survivors can anticipate sometimes some issues because they have been there, as I said, they have been there before, okay? And for mentors, non-survivors, for women in general, well, they get closer to this situation, to gender issues, to gender violence. And as I said at the beginning, you remember participation leads transformation. So this is how we work with this gender agenda. So if experiencing makes more sensitive to people, so getting closer to a woman in this situation makes you feel more sensitive. So for this woman in general, to give a hand and to work with other women in socializing away from violence is a big deal. It's something, okay? And to end with the exposition, I think for professionals, if I'm allowed to say that, I think that mentoring makes professional impact more effective. I think we add quality to the services because we adapt to every circumstance. We see the whole picture inside the centers and outside the centers, the institutions. So many mentoring develop outside the services, as I said, and the interventions are more complete, more specific, more flexible. And of course, the professionals know that, and they say, okay, this mentor woman, this woman can do something I cannot, I'm not allowed to do. And they work in a different position, okay, in a horizontal approach and position. So professionals, I think they appreciate the job of the mentors, and sometimes they work aligned in parallel, so the result, the outcome is even better. So, well, this is mainly the idea of Donas Mentoras. You can see now some pictures of us. In one of them is Beatriz. You see yourself, maybe you can see yourself. Like I think this picture was taken 3 years ago, or at the very beginning. Queen for is been behind and helping and supporting me from the very beginning. And this is more or less the idea of Donas Mentoras. And thank you for attending. And I'm open for discussion or to debate about the questions I put you in the slide. So this is everything. Thank you. These are the questions I prepared. So maybe we can split in 2 groups, and maybe we can discuss afterwards about that. So it was a pleasure. I have to leave now and to stop this workshop. And of course, as I said, if you feel like you want to know more about the program, of course, let me know and I will show you. And of course, I will try to answer and deepen in some aspects of the project. And thank you so much for being here. And of course, all of us are women. It always happens when it's, when we talk about gender or gender perspective or gender agenda. So it's always us. I don't know why.
Even though we are not the ones overrepresented with problems with violence.
But again,
the data says that we are not in the overrepresented group. Here we are.
It's always like this, and it's a pity, but it's I'm quite I'm quite used to that. So, and I think you too. So thank you for being here. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you throughout the summit. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.